Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and I am so thrilled to have in the studio with us today a longtime friend of mine, a colleague of mine, is a retired high school principal, still teaching and espousing great things in the community, and his name is Wendell Bass Jr. Wendell, how are you? You look terrific, for God's sake. Do you ever age?
Well, I don't know about age, but I expand and contract.
I don't know about that. That's terrific. And full disclosure, Wendell and I knew each other when I was working for San Diego Unified in the 80s, and has a storied past. When did you start your teaching career?
I actually started in 1972 in Kansas.
Right.
So I graduated from University of Kansas, spent...
Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
Yeah, master's from there, and then spent 2 years teaching in Lawrence School District, which is where University of Kansas is. Then I went to Kansas City, taught in Shawnee Mission.
Interesting.
Was there for about 5 years, met Angela through, just family, her...
She from Kansas?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
No. She's military, but her oldest sister married my youngest brother.
Oh my goodness!
So I met her through that in our little small hometown, and then it was like a 3-year long distance relationship. And she graduated from San Francisco State.
Right.
Her dad was over 30 years in the Air Force, and so she lived everywhere.
Right.
And we decided, and she hated Kansas, so in 1979, we moved to San Diego. My first teaching assignment was Wangenheim Junior High, where Jim Velasquez was a principal. Dave LeMay was a vice principal, and Tony Alfaro was a vice principal. So, names that, are kind of...
They got iconic names, and I worked with all of them. Exactly.
Yes.
I came to the district a year later in 1980. I worked in curriculum development, as you well know. Uh-huh. And then you went through the ranks and all that.
Right.
When did you start your administrative career?
So actually, I was at UC, or University City High School, for a year and a half.
Right.
And then right mid-year, I get this call, "You're going to Lincoln." I said, "No, I'm not. I didn't interview. I made the leadership list."
Right.
So Bob Press, the principal, said, "Look, it works this way. Once you make the list,
you're going.
You're going."
It's like the military, right?
Yeah. And so I went to Lincoln in the spring, January of '86, and then I was a vice principal and athletic director there for 5.5 years.
Yeah.
Then to Keeler for 4 years as the principal of the junior. It was a junior high then.
Right.
And then back to Lincoln in 1995. And then I had it was a wonderful time. So the 8 years remained from 95 to 2003. I was the principal, and we closed the school, because we rebuilt Lincoln.
Right.
But I was honored to be able to help lead that process in the rebuild. A lot of people, community, and all that involved.
Right. When you were VP at Lincoln, was Ruby the principal?
Yeah, Dr. Ruby Kramashi, swimmer.
Right, and then Trish Harris was your VP colleague.
Yeah,
right?
she was there for a couple of years.
Right.
And then she went to Point Loma.
Went to Point Loma
as a vice principal.
That's right.
And then from Point Loma over to Lewis.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, audience, but this is Old Home Week, so you're going to have to see us going through sort of our steps on this aspect of it. Mm-hmm. And then when you went to Lincoln as principal, who were your VPs?
I just had, actually when I got there, Irene Outlaw. And then she went to the central office after a year.
Right.
And then it was Dana Robinson and I.
Of course.
And I think about a year and a half I had Kathy Pope.
Right.
But then the last 4 years or so was just Dana and I.
Right. Exactly. We're chatting with Wendell Bass, retired high school principal, still doing great things in the community. I'm Drew Schlosberg, as you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community, show the nation's longest running community podcast. We're now in our 18th year. We are brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union in this very cool Mission Fed studios here in Scripps Ranch. And Mission Fed for more than 6 decades, just really elevating cool things for San Diegans living in San Diego County. Listen, these 3 topics are in your DNA and always have been since the day I met you. Equity, educational leadership, and most important, believing that every child can learn and every child can be more than just learning, can be brilliant. It is you, it is Wendell, anyone who spent time with Wendell. Talk about the equity aspect of just how critical that is. We talk about it a lot. Sometimes we don't apply it, do we?
Well, I didn't realize we were doing equity when I was principal and vice principal at Lincoln. And I tell people, you don't have to read a whole lot of articles. Equity is giving people what they need when they need it. And then I coined this term that equity is just love in action. And so if you have a child in front of you and they can't read well, or they can't do math well, or whatever the situation is, I have a responsibility as an adult to intervene and give them what they need, not way down the road, but give it to them right now as much as I can, and then love them. So that's the foundation of equity. If you don't love children, you don't need to be in the business.
That's right.
And so equity is everything that you do. So whether it be budget, whether it's curriculum, it doesn't matter. It's in all things that you do. We tend to take equity as a society and we make it a silo. Oh, today I'm going to do equity. What? It doesn't make sense. And so equity is, now we have to look at it deeply, like, for instance, who's included in what we're doing, who's not in what we're doing. We need to look at race, culture, language, sexual orientation. I mean, you can go down the list. Because if you don't do that, then how do you serve them and how do you give them what they need?
Right, exactly. Do you teach classes on that at all? I know you're still active.
We did professional development, my wife and I, for 2.5 years at the County Office of Ed.
Right.
And so they asked us to come in and do workshops with their staff, which is at the time around 1,100 people. So we did, 1 year we did 95 workshops.
Wow.
But basically getting everybody on the same page and working with people, and this is how you are connected to children. Because one of the struggles, I think, with central office folk is they're not on the campus, so they don't always see their work as tied to children. But yet when the eagle flies on Friday, guess what? It's those children in those seats that drive that budget that allows you to eat. So you're so right. I'm chatting with Wendell Bass, who retired high school principal at San Diego Unified. Now, are you doing any teaching at your church at all? Yeah, I teach on Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah.
And they are a form of Bible study. But what we do is we don't do the traditional books of the Bible. So currently we're using a book called, on Tuesday night, we're using a book called The Rebellious Life of Mrs. Rosa Parks.
Oh,
and
nice.
then we tie it into, because, very religious woman and all of that, that's a part of it. And then we're doing a book on Monday night called Dancing in the Darkness by Pastor Otis Moss III. And he's the pastor of, I think it's Trinity Church of God, where Jeremiah Wright was the former pastor.
Really? Wow. Right.
And but it's written a fabulous book. So I do that on Monday and Tuesday.
No, that's terrific. Talk about your philosophy, work with educational leadership.
Wow.
It's critical.
Everything rises and falls on leadership.
That's right.
Not some things, everything does. So if you have a leader who walks an equitable walk, who loves the children, who believes that every child is brilliant, then basically you're helping your staff do the same thing. And ultimately, as I tell them, even as a leader or whether you're a teacher, and teachers are leaders, because they're leading a class.
Of course.
40 young people or 30 young people, whatever.
182 days.
You're leading.
Right.
And if you walk in your brilliance, then children will pattern themselves after what they see in front of them. So we have to, I do that with leadership. One of the books I love using is John Maxwell's 5 Levels of Leadership. Because too many people love the positional leadership. They forget that really leadership is about relationships, and it's about influence, and it's about taking folks in the right direction. And so my emphasis has always been foundationally, you got to love people. Then you got to have high expectations of people. You have to be expert at what you know. So if I walk in a classroom, I need to be able to, one, pay attention to the children, even talk to the children. What are you learning? Why are you doing what you're doing? But I've got to be able to analyze whether that's effective instruction or not, and then be able to give feedback to the teacher so that they can grow and improve. So you got to be an expert. Then I had to know budget. I had to know a whole lot of things. And then to design your budgets so that it meets the needs of the children that you serve, and then also meets the needs of teachers. You got to give them what they need in order to serve the children effectively. But every decision is based on what is good for our children and their parents and so forth. And I talk about how do you look at a community and look at it in terms of the assets that the community has. See, it's easy to look at a community and go like, I wouldn't want to live here. Well, when you say that and you're working with the children of that community, what are you saying about them?
Exactly.
So those are some of the areas that I try to hit. But the main thing is that the walk. Your audio has to match your video.
Yeah. Well, that makes all the sense in the world. We're going to chat more with Wendell Bass when we come back from a break. Wendell is a former high school principal, a thought leader. I can say this from experience because I was honored to work with Wendell for many, many years back in the day. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You're listening to our edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. It is brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, doing just great things in San Diego for more than 6 decades. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg, Cloudcast Media. You're listening to another edition of a Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 18th year. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for more than 6 decades. Has been just doing wonderful things in our region, elevating things from education to art to pick a topic. Joined by my longtime friend and colleague, Wendell Bass, retired high school principal, literally a thought leader, continues to be a thought leader, definitely during his tenure when he was an administrator for San Diego Unified School District. You know, you talked about something that I think is so important. Fortunately, my business partner, Charles Parisi, is laser beamed on everything you just talked about. And Charles does a lot of work with Jackie Robinson Y and with Lincoln and so forth. It's all about giving these kids an opportunity and with their voice in that aspect of it. Talk about what advice would you give to parents whose kids are in the system? Doesn't make a difference if it's San Diego Unified, Poway, Vista, Kansas City, Timbuktu, doesn't make a difference. And how they can work with the schools. Don't be intimidated by the schools. The schools need to be your partner. But a lot of times people look at schools as being insular. Talk about that.
I would tell parents, first of all, this is your child, and you are allowing us to work with your child, the most precious thing in your life. And so we have a responsibility to treat that child with love, respect, but we also have a responsibility to make you as a parent feel welcome on the campus. Too many of our parents go to schools and what do you want? What are you doing here? Wait a minute. This is you're in their community. I would tell parents, you have the right to go and ask. You have the right to see the teacher and meet with the teachers. You know, we spend a lot of time over in the technical stuff, worrying about test scores and all of that. Well, I'm more concerned about how is my child being treated? What are they doing in that classroom? Do I know? You know, do I as a parent have a relationship with my child's teachers? Because if you just stay away or you feel like you have to stay away from the school, then a lot of times you'll get contacted, but it's generally going to be something negative.
Right.
You know, how about let's approach it from a different aspect and pick up that phone, call the parent, and tell some good things about that child. Make those positive deposits. You know, I really enjoy having your child. I really enjoy what they do. This is what they do. You know, figure out ways to get to know them so that when you got to do a withdrawal from the bank, so those are deposits into the bank. When you got to do a withdrawal, you won't have the parent or the parent saying, why did you wait till it got bad? You know, we could have done something about it way back when and so on. But they're going to be more with you because you've already shaped
you're spot on, Wendell, and it hits in Steve Covey's 7 Habits of Effective Leadership of the Emotional Bank Account. And you want to have, you know, a lot of capital in that bank account. So you know, when there's some deposits that are good, but there's some withdrawals, well, you got enough money in the bank account that'll be fine in this. And I think that's so important. What you're talking about is that, you know, and you mentioned this earlier about leadership, and it's life in general. You know, as long as I've known you, you've been one of these guys that's been a great listener. Now, a lot of people hear. There's a difference between hearing and listening. We say that all the time on our show here. Listening is you are actually listening, you know, and you're reacting to what someone has to say, and you're checking for clarification in that aspect of it. And it goes hand in hand with you know, what you're just talking about, leadership. Life is about relationships, okay? That sounds like the most obvious statement in the world, and it's amazing how many people don't get that. Talk about that.
Whew. Everybody, now the key phrase out there is belonging.
Yeah.
Create a sense of belonging. Well, if you don't ever engage with people, how do you create belonging?
Right.
You know, so it's, relationships are fundamental to everything that we do. And so it's important to be at a game. I'm going to use sports as an example. I used to love to come to the gym at Lincoln, the old gym. And I had over in the corner some older gentlemen, elders in the community, and I called that my old man's corner. All right, but we didn't have problems at our games because I knew those guys knew almost all of those kids that are sitting there. If they didn't know their parents, they knew their parents, their grandparents, their uncles, and their aunts.
Right.
That stops a whole lot of stuff.
That's right.
But you got to build a relationship with your community. You got to embrace, not love the community, but embrace it. So that when they come on the campus, see, they feel welcome, they're a part of. When they see you in the community or whatever that they speak, all of that, and that reaching out, making yourself available, have a smile on your face, look like you're a principal. Now, and that comes in a whole lot of ways, but it's how you carry yourself, not so much all the dress. But you still want to look, professional. But I used to love those games because there was a camaraderie that was there, and people, even today, they talk about those 8 years at Lincoln, we're family. Well, how do you build a family environment? You build it by engaging, with people, loving people, encouraging people, being there when it's hard times, like right now. See, it's critical in that community that you're engaged, that you're working with folks who have lost everything. What kind of services can you bring in on your campus? What are your children going through? Are you walking in the community? Are you meeting with the ministers? Those things are important.
Right.
When we moved to it, now I'll be real quick. When we moved to a city, see, we don't ask what churches. We ask, what are the schools like? If you understand that, then you understand that you really become that center of the community, and then how will you treat that community?
Yeah, there's no question about that. You got such great advice. You have a great way with you on this, and you always have on this one. If people want to get a hold of you and say, listen, I'm going to listen to this, that's a lot of great advice for engaging, whether it's from an educator to the parent, educator to the student, or everything in between. Can people get a hold of you? Can they ring you up? You don't do that anymore?
Well, I have an email. I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
But my email is wbass12@att.net.
Yeah.
And
well, listen, I think it's these types of things that my business partner wants to mention that. When I was recently at Costco, I was accosted by some gentleman that wouldn't let me move my cart. And that was the one I'm talking to right now, Wendell Bass, on this. And then, of course, your bride was there, Angela, who is a senior level person at the County Office of Education. And I think it's all this stuff is important, and it comes from years of being in education, and getting back to something, is absolutely 100% so spot on. I'm not sure if you heard that part of the interview we just had with Paulette Dinellen on the county board. And the superintendent I'm pretty close with, Dr. Paul Gothold, and who your bride works with. He's laser beamed on what you just said, and that is believing every kid can succeed. And spending time to make sure that kid knows you love him or her, and that aspect of it. So that's spot on. Wendell, it was a pleasure. Thank you for your sage advice. And who knows, you may be getting some calls from some people and say, I heard you on the podcast, and can you share some more insights? And hopefully that'll happen.
Okay. I'm available.
Absolutely. Well, It was great seeing you. Wishing you just nothing but great success in your church work and all that business. And maybe we'll catch you down at Costco again sometime. That is the future.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely my pleasure. Wendell Bass, a retired high school principal. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, nation's longest community podcast, now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for more than 60 years. They've been doing great things in our community. We hope you enjoyed the show.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show. amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.